During the summer months of 1943, an explosion tore through a German munitions convoy heading toward the Kursk offensive. The detonation occurred just 200 meters from active combat zones. Invisible fighters had orchestrated this destruction. At this point, nearly 374,000 Soviet guerrilla fighters operated throughout German-held territories. Their numbers exceeded American military presence on the European continent. This represents a different narrative of the Eastern conflict than commonly understood. Operation Barbarossa launched in June 1941, unleashing the Wehrmacht's devastating advance. German forces encircled and captured millions of Red Army personnel. A fraction managed to evade capture. Forest regions became their refuge. German occupation extended only to transportation routes and urban centers. Beyond those boundaries lay wilderness. Small bands scattered throughout the woodlands. Groups of 30 combatants emerged here. Clusters of 12 appeared there. Soldiers from the Red Army transformed into guerrilla fighters. Moscow issued directives for irregular warfare. Initial responses were minimal. Chaos dominated the retreat. Then, systematic civilian massacres began. One trapped officer witnessed the incineration of his hometown by German forces. His relatives perished in the flames. His strategy shifted from concealment to active combat. Additional fighters rallied to his cause. The instinct for survival evolved into a quest for vengeance. Meanwhile, the Wehrmacht confronted an unexpected challenge. Their strategic maps indicated total dominance. Actual conditions told a contradictory story. Urban centers remained under their control. Major roadways stayed secured. However, the wilderness belonged to armed phantoms. A German military column penetrated the Bryansk woodland. The convoy comprised 20 vehicles and 300 troops. Discovery revealed only charred ruins and absent casualties. The forest itself seemed predatory. These phantom forces were developing combat capabilities. Initial formations arose from desperate circumstances. Stranded military personnel, party functionaries, civilians armed with hunting weapons. Mutual trust was absent between these groups. Yet German occupation united them in hatred. Knowledge came through casualties. Checkpoint assaults resulted in 50% losses. Infrastructure sabotage triggered reprisal executions of 10 villages. Every tactical lesson required bloodshed, whether from their ranks or innocent populations. Frequently, both paid the price. One local party official named Malyok assembled a formation of 43 fighters. 7 functional rifles equipped the entire group. Weaponry came from fallen enemy soldiers. Explosive devices were fashioned from unexploded ordnance. Agricultural implements became instruments of war. The winter of 1941 descended with lethal severity. Temperatures plummeted to negative 30 degrees. German personnel froze inside their transport vehicles. Guerrilla fighters understood the climate and exploited it. Nighttime raids against German installations began. Sentries were discovered frozen at their stations, literally frozen upright in death. A German military assessment captured the terror. Enemy appears from emptiness, executes attacks, evaporates. Our personnel are discovered with severed throats. Snow reveals no tracks, as if spectres committed the murders. By December's conclusion, 90,000 guerrilla fighters functioned throughout German-occupied zones, operating independently without unified command, yet expanding constantly. Each German war crime generated 10 additional combatants. Each destroyed settlement meant additional vengeance seekers. Central Command in Moscow eventually recognized the phenomenon developing behind hostile lines. May 30th, 1942, marked a turning point. Panteleimon Ponomarenko assumed overall command. His mission transformed scattered bandits into a cohesive military force. Communication equipment arrived. Strategic planning followed. German casualties multiplied. The first radio transmission crackled through a forest encampment. Moscow's voice reached them. Guerrilla forces received orders. Specific objectives were designated. The rail junction at Orsha. Storage facilities at Vitebsk. the river crossing over the Desna. Sydir Kovpak commanded the most lethal operations, a Civil War veteran who understood how to drain an adversary's strength. His offensive operations covered distances exceeding 10,000 kilometers. German pursuit efforts proved futile. His movements resembled smoke patterns. His strikes had lightning's character. Aircraft delivered supplies during darkness hours. Explosives descended from above. Communication devices, ammunition, medical resources. Forest encampments expanded in size. Medical facilities materialized. Armament workshops appeared. Propaganda printing facilities, underground communities. However, Himmler developed countermeasures. He termed it Bandenbekämpfung, bandit suppression. Every civilian became a hostile entity. Every settlement became a legitimate target. Consequently, the conflict behind front lines achieved new savagery levels. One guerrilla fighter recalled the transformation. Previously, our strategy was concealment. Following Ponomarenko's arrival, we became hunters. Moscow provided us offensive capability. Radio communication revolutionized everything. Previously, a guerrilla formation might sabotage a single rail section, unaware that another formation targeted the identical section the previous day. Duplicated efforts. Now Moscow provided coordination. 10 separate formations, 10 distinct objectives, optimal destruction achieved. Training facilities opened deep within forest regions. Intelligence service instructors taught demolitions techniques, radio operations, silent elimination methods, document counterfeiting. The amateur phase concluded. Professional operatives emerged. Supply deliveries arrived weekly, parachutes descending through nocturnal darkness. Guerrilla fighters collected them like lethal gifts. TNT explosive, detonation devices, radio power cells, medical provisions, even alcohol for maintaining morale. German intelligence services immediately detected the transformation. Superior weaponry, synchronized assaults, professional methodology. A Wehrmacht assessment cautioned that the bandits have evolved into military forces. Kovpak demonstrated this evolution. His mobile formation traveled by horseback. 500 combatants equipped with machine weapons and mortar systems. Their speed exceeded German mechanized formations. They executed strikes, vanished, then attacked again 50 kilometers distant. One offensive eliminated 17 German positions across 10 days. Railway structures destroyed, supply warehouses incinerated, communication lines severed. An entire German division spent 3 weeks pursuing phantoms. Germans attempted infiltration operations, deploying Ukrainian collaborators disguised as guerrilla fighters. Most faced immediate discovery. Guerrilla forces maintained password protocols. Moscow verified identities through radio transmission. Discovered infiltrators experienced terrible deaths. Extremely terrible. Information spread. German personnel began sleeping inside armored vehicles. Guerrilla forces dominated nocturnal hours. The coordination system was functioning. Time arrived to demonstrate strategic guerrilla warfare's potential. Belarusian territory contained 40% forest coverage. The Pripyat wetlands extended infinitely. No viable roads existed, no accurate cartography, only swamp vegetation and death. German armor sank into mud. Their communication equipment failed in wetlands. Their transport vehicles exploded on forest pathways. The geography itself became their adversary. One German battalion entered the woodland. 800 personnel. 21 days. Later, 200 emerged. They never observed their adversary, only explosive minds, marksmen, phantoms that killed. Guerrilla forces constructed entire communities underground, surgical facilities hidden in bunkers, educational facilities for youth, command centers linked through radio to Moscow. The forest no longer provided concealment. It had become their essence. Germans attempted massive clearing operations. Operation Cottbus deployed thousands of troops, aircraft, artillery systems. They discovered abandoned camps, dead ends, explosive traps. The guerrilla forces dispersed, then struck German rear positions. However, Frustration made German forces increasingly brutal. They incinerated villages, executed civilians, created depopulated zones. Consequently, additional civilians joined guerrilla movements. German brutality became guerrilla recruitment. A German officer wrote correspondence stating, "We control nothing in this region. Every tree observes. Every swamp conceals. Death. This isn't warfare. It's being prey." The Bryansk forest alone housed 12,000 guerrilla fighters. They controlled 3,000 square kilometers, maintained their own governance structure, medical facilities, arms manufacturing, even theatrical entertainment, an underground nation. German cartography indicated occupied territory. Reality indicated something different. Daytime hours saw German control of primary roads. Perhaps. Nighttime hours saw guerrilla ownership of everything. Settlements that displayed German flags during daylight assisted guerrilla forces after dark. The Pripyat wetlands became guerrilla sanctuary. No German vehicles could navigate the swamp terrain. Local guides led guerrilla forces through pathways Germans never located. Guerrilla boats moved through channels invisible from aerial observation. One German formation became disoriented in the wetlands. 3 days wandering aimlessly. Guerrilla forces observed, waited, allowed hunger and insects to weaken them, then eliminated survivors. Bodies remained as warnings. Germans ceased entering wetland areas. Guerrilla encampments evolved into fortified positions, multiple defensive perimeters, explosive minefields, machine weapon emplacements, evacuation tunnels, early detection systems utilizing local settlements. Germans required battalion-strength forces merely to approach. Usually discovered empty camps. Guerrilla forces had departed hours earlier. The forest provided every necessity. Food from hunting activities, medicine from botanical sources, construction materials, concealment locations. Local knowledge meant survival. Germans possessed maps. Guerrilla forces possessed home advantage. Women comprised 25% of guerrilla forces. Scouts, medical personnel, radio operators, marksmen. Germans never anticipated female combatants. Fatal miscalculation. Female guerrilla fighters collected intelligence in German-occupied towns, then vanished into forests. Children functioned as couriers, too young to arouse suspicion. They transported information between guerrilla formations, provided warnings about German movements. Many perished. Germans executed children as well. Age held no significance in this conflict. By 1943, guerrilla forces controlled greater territory than the Wehrmacht. Moscow was prepared to weaponize them. A single railway from Warsaw to Smolensk. One supply line feeding Army Group Center. The Wehrmacht's vulnerability exposed. August 1943 marked the rail war's commencement. One night, 8,000 explosive charges detonated. The German railway network ceased functioning for 2 days. Kursk received no reinforcements. Thousands of bridges destroyed. Thousands of rail cuts. Every repair team became a target. Germans required 10% of their Eastern Front strength merely to protect trains. Still inadequate. One train departed Minsk carrying tank ammunition. It exploded near Orsha. Another departed with medical provisions. Guerrilla forces captured it. A third transported reinforcements. They discovered twisted metal. No train. However, the Germans counterattacked. Armored trains, guard posts every kilometer, patrols with dogs. Consequently, guerrilla forces modified tactics. They targeted repair teams, destroyed switches, severed telegraph lines. Operation Concert launched in September 1943. 120,000 guerrilla fighters struck simultaneously. The entire German logistics network hemorrhaged. Guderian termed it death through 1,000 cuts. At Kursk, German armor exhausted fuel supplies. Artillery depleted ammunition because trains never arrived because guerrilla forces controlled the railways. The statistics told the narrative. Before the rail war, Germans moved 60 trains daily through Belarus. During the rail war, 12 trains, perhaps if fortunate. Most never completed journeys. Guerrilla forces developed new methodologies, delayed action explosive devices. Trains exploded. Hours after guerrilla forces departed, Germans never knew which rails were secure. Paranoia proliferated. Train personnel refused duty. Some deserted. German countermeasures failed. They attached empty cars to locomotive fronts. Guerrilla forces allowed them passage. Destroyed the ammunition cars behind. They used local forced labor to inspect tracks. Guerrilla forces warned workers which areas to avoid. Germans discovered nothing. One guerrilla formation specialized in bridges. 15 major bridges across 2 months. Each bridge required weeks for German repair. While repairing, no trains moved. Supply crisis intensified. Frontline formations starved for ammunition. The psychological impact multiplied the physical destruction. German soldiers knew supplies weren't arriving. Morale disintegrated. Why continue fighting when no reinforcements would arrive? When ammunition ran scarce? When medical provisions vanished? A captured German diary revealed the impact. No correspondence. From home. No supplies. No hope. The guerrilla forces have isolated us. We are already deceased, just awaiting to fall. Guerrilla intelligence identified critical shipments, tank components, aircraft fuel, winter clothing. These trains received special attention. Multiple guerrilla formations coordinated. The critical supplies never arrived. German offensive capability perished on the railways. Germans attempted deception, fake supply trains, decoy shipments. Guerrilla forces had informants in German rail administration. Every deception revealed, real supplies targeted, decoys ignored. By October 1943, German rail movement in occupied territory had collapsed. What should require days required weeks, if it arrived at all. The Wehrmacht bled out through its severed supply lines. The true test was approaching. Bagration would demonstrate what guerrilla army integration could achieve. June 20, 1944, 4 days before Bagration. Every German telephone line in Belarus went silent. Cut simultaneously, Army Group Center went blind. Belarusian guerrilla forces seized river crossings. They held them for the Red Army. German reserves couldn't move. Roads exploded. Bridges collapsed. Command posts burned. General Bush commanded Army Group Center. He couldn't reach his divisions, couldn't coordinate defense. His 350,000 personnel fought alone. In the dark, guerrilla forces fed intelligence to Rokossovsky. Every German position, every weak point, every ammunition dump. The Red Army knew everything. Germans knew nothing. However, the Germans attempted retreat. Consequently, guerrilla forces blocked every forest road, destroyed every bridge behind them. Wehrmacht soldiers found themselves between hammer and anvil. A German colonel's final radio message stated partisans everywhere. No retreat possible. God help us. Army Group Center perished. 350,000 casualties. The guerrilla forces had set the table. The Red Army feasted. The coordination was unprecedented. Guerrilla commanders had Red Army liaison officers. Real-time communication. Guerrilla forces became eyes and ears of advancing Soviet forces. They marked German minefields, identified strong points, captured bridges intact. One guerrilla formation held a vital crossroads for 6 hours against 2 German battalions until Soviet tanks arrived. The guerrilla forces lost 80% killed. The crossroads stayed open. The Soviet advance continued. German formations retreated into guerrilla-controlled territory, like entering a meat grinder. Every forest trail had ambushes. Every village had snipers. Germans abandoned vehicles, heavy weapons, wounded comrades, just to move faster. Still too slow. Guerrilla formations that had operated for 3 years knew every path, every hiding spot. They guided Soviet reconnaissance formations, showed them German positions, led them around strong points. The Red Army advanced at unprecedented speed. German communication breakdown was total. Formations lost contact. Orders never arrived. Artillery fired at wrong coordinates. Reinforcements went to abandoned positions. Chaos, panic, collapse. Some German formations surrendered to guerrilla forces rather than regular forces. They feared guerrilla forces less than frontline combat. Wrong choice. Guerrilla forces remembered 3 years of atrocities. Few Germans survived surrender. The Berezina River crossing became a slaughter. Germans tried to cross. Guerrilla forces held the far bank. Red Army artillery found them in the open. 20,000 Germans died at the river. History repeated. Different army, same result. By July, Army Group Center had ceased to exist. 28 divisions destroyed. The guerrilla contribution was undeniable. They had paralyzed German command, blocked retreat, provided intelligence, held critical points. Success came at terrible cost for those living in the shadow war. Katyn burned, the whole village. SS and Ukrainian collaborators locked families in barns, set them ablaze. Children screamed. Parents couldn't save them. 5,000 Belarusian villages erased. Collective punishment. Support guerrilla forces. Your village dies. Don't support them. They might kill you. No good choices. A guerrilla commander faced the decision. Attack the garrison. Secure the rail line. But his village stood nearby. His mother lived there. His children. He attacked. The garrison fell. The village burned next day. His family with it. The war demanded these choices. Operation Kotba swept through Belarus. Thousands massacred. Not just guerrilla forces. Anyone, everyone, elderly women, infants. German logic was simple. No people, no guerrilla forces. However, killing civilians created more guerrilla forces. Every murdered family produced vengeful survivors. Consequently, German brutality defeated itself. The mathematics of atrocity were predictable. Germans burned one village. 3 neighboring villages joined guerrilla forces. Germans killed a family. Every relative became a fighter. German terror multiplied their enemies. Some villages played both sides. Fed Germans information by day. Fed guerrilla forces by night. Survival required flexibility. Both sides knew. Both sides used them. Villages trapped between forces. Children grew up in this horror. Saw parents shot, homes burned, neighbors hanged. They joined guerrilla forces at 12, 13, carried messages, planted mines, died like adults. The war consumed childhoods. Guerrilla discipline varied wildly. Some formations protected civilians. Others demanded food at gunpoint. Some commanders were heroes. Others were bandits with ideology. Villages never knew which type would arrive. The Dirlewanger Brigade specialized in anti-guerrilla operations. Convicts and criminals in SS uniforms. Their methods were medieval. Torture, rape, burning people alive. Even other SS formations avoided them. One survivor remembered. The choice. Guerrilla forces came demanding food. We gave it. Germans came asking who helped guerrilla forces. We lied. Both sides could kill us. We chose who to fear more. Villages developed warning systems. Church bells meant Germans approaching. Different pattern meant guerrilla forces. Children posted as lookouts. Everyone ready to flee to forests. Sometimes it worked. Often it didn't. Some collaborators helped Germans hunt guerrilla forces. Local police, former Soviet prisoners. They knew the terrain, the people, the hiding places. Guerrilla forces hunted them relentlessly. Collaborators died worse than Germans. By 1944, Belarus had lost 25% of its population. Entire regions depopulated. The guerrilla war had extracted a price beyond imagination. By 1944, the tide turned. Shadow armies emerged from forests. Red Army advanced. Guerrilla forces joined regular formations. Forest fighters became soldiers. They hated the uniforms, hated the rules, but they marched west. Stalin trusted no one. Heroes in newspapers, suspects in NKVD files. Guerrilla forces had lived free too long, thought for themselves. That was dangerous. A guerrilla commander received his medal in the morning. NKVD arrested him at night, charged with unauthorized enemy contact, 3 years of fighting Germans, Gulag reward. However, the numbers couldn't lie. 500,000 German troops tied down, infrastructure destroyed, logistics shattered. Consequently, when Red Army struck, Wehrmacht couldn't respond, couldn't reinforce, couldn't retreat. The guerrilla war proved something new. Modern war had no rear area, no safe zone. Every occupation becomes a bleeding wound. America would learn this. In Vietnam, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, Wehrmacht planners calculated after the war. One guerrilla fighter tied down 10 German soldiers, 10 soldiers not fighting the Red Army. Math of guerrilla war. Many guerrilla fighters couldn't adjust to regular army life. 3 years of independence, making their own decisions. Now following orders from officers who'd never seen guerrilla warfare. Friction was inevitable. Some guerrilla formations got disbanded immediately, dispersed among regular formations. Their knowledge wasted, their experience ignored. The Soviet system didn't like independent thinkers, even heroic ones. Others received special assignments. Reconnaissance formations behind enemy lines in East Prussia, Poland, Germany itself. Their skills still valuable until the war ended. Then they became problems again. The NKVD screening process was brutal. Every guerrilla fighter interrogated. Who did you know? What did you do? Why did you survive when others died? Survival itself became suspicious. Many disappeared into camps. Some famous commanders survived. Kovpak became a general, led regular formations. Others weren't so lucky. The more successful the guerrilla fighter, the more dangerous to Stalin. Success meant independence. Independence meant threat. Forest war was over. Lessons echo still. Desperate bands hiding in forests became a strategic weapon. They evolved from survivors to soldiers, from chaos to coordination. Wehrmacht's war machine bled to death from 10,000 cuts. Hitler's quick victory dream died, not just at Stalingrad, in every forest ambush, every blown rail, every dead supply truck, every burned bridge. Guerrilla forces proved modern war's brutal truth. Front lines exist everywhere and nowhere. Hitler conquered territory he couldn't control. Wehrmacht occupied land that consumed them. No rear, no safety, no rest. Only shadows, with guns bleeding them white. Military planners still study this. The lesson written in blood across Eastern Europe. You can conquer land. You can't conquer forests full of people who want you dead. The guerrilla war holds thousands of untold stories. Women guerrilla fighters who made up 10%. Intelligence networks, the complex dance between guerrilla forces and civilians. Which piece of this shadow war deserves its own deep dive? Tell us below. If you enjoyed this story, hit subscribe for more fascinating World War II historical deep dives every week. Thanks for watching.